Hello, I'm Sam,
I'm John Torrance, hello.
and we run a mega game called Mirror State. And for those of you unfamiliar with mega gaming, basically if you were to take 50 people, stick them in a room and combine role-playing and board games and a bit of war gaming and some video gaming and the news and the X-Files and House of Cards, that's kind of what you end up with. It's a full-day live event. We call it the Disaster Movie Mega Game, and basically we simulate the end of the world.
That sounds about right. And you can play a variety of different roles. So you might be a member of the FBI, you might be in NASA, you can be in a corporation, and you're trying to defend the Earth from this global threat, whatever it may be, and it's different every single time, but at the same time trying to get as much money and power as you possibly can.
So everybody has kind of an independent agenda. We run a presidential election midway through the game, and for politicians, you know, what they're trying to do to start with is make sure they get re-elected halfway through. All the time in the background, there might be zombies about to start encroaching on US borders, or there might be an alien attack fleet about to arrive, or the Andromeda strain is about to break out, or a corporation is working on a new super AI that is about to decide that humanity is a problem rather than a benefit. The one thing that we don't tell players up front is what are they going to be facing, because that moment of realization, that moment of, oh, it's zombies, oh God, we've hosed this completely, we should have shut our borders an hour ago, is something that you... One of the things, I'm going to backtrack, I'm going to do a bit of this.
Rewind.
So the kind of the poster child for mega games right now is a game called Watch the Skies, which if you haven't seen the video footage of, a quick search on that there YouTube will find you Shut Up and Sit Down's full playthrough of the game. And they're up against alien invaders. And the setup at the start of the game is that the world doesn't know aliens are up there. But everybody going into a subsequent game knows that aliens are up there to start with. There's no surprise there. Everyone knows that aliens are coming. And there's a big moment in the game where the first country announces, aliens are among us, everybody in the world panics. But there seems to be a race to do it in every game. People charge ahead to be the first country to announce that aliens are actually among us. So we wanted to get away with that by basically hiding what the threat is, what the main storyline is. And we do that through a variety of methods, John, don't we?
Yes, we do. So we have a few people who are deciding what the threat will be and how it plays out. So keeping things secret is a very big deal for us.
They're players.
Sorry?
Mention that they're players.
They are players.
They're not us.
So, yes, exactly. So you get to choose what happens as these particular players. And it's all about sending out information, sending out briefings. So each group, whether it is the FBI or NASA, whichever group the briefing goes to, will get their own particular briefing. So it's all tied together, but it's up to them to work out what is actually happening and what is just a red herring. And we will throw in lots of other stuff, which sounds as if it's important, but which might not be. So that's really where the meat of it is. It's negotiation, stabbing each other in the back, it's coercing people and interacting and adding to the fiction. We write all these different ideas and events, and on the day choose which are going to work the best. And what's lovely for us is towards the end of the day we'll get events coming back that we hadn't anticipated, that we hadn't designed, and so we react to those in a way which makes it as exciting as possible, and ultimately at the end of the day the world will end. The game stops.
There is no... The one thing that we kind of lay out on the first page of the soon-to-be rewritten manual is it's up to you to decide what winning looks like. What winning won't look like is humanity stands proud and the threat is eliminated. No. This is the disaster movie. It's all about who survives what's coming. It's not about we eliminated it in the morning and then drunk tea for the rest of the day. No, that's not what it's about. It's about the end of the world. The world is going to end. It's the dignity with which you conduct yourselves through to the end of the world. So we played the first game, 4 weeks ago?
June 6th, yes.
all right, a month ago. A month ago. We played the first game a month ago, and throughout the whole of the morning session, people were generally just finding their feet. We didn't get the game moving as fast as we were kind of anticipating. I expected players to be doing some cut and thrust legislation. I want to get that energy bill through the House so that my state can benefit. Nobody got that. And it was because we poorly explained how to do it. Based on the feedback that we had, what quite a few people didn't get was you can do whatever you like. There's no, and now I have to play this card. No, it's if you're inhabiting the role that you are in that game, if you behave in accordance to that role, you're doing it right. You are doing it, and you can do whatever you want. You have objectives that are given to you. I should have a little dangly card here to show exactly what that does. Basically, you wear a big lanyard card that is your player information. And we obfuscate stuff from other players that they shouldn't see, but you get to see stuff that's right to you. But it gives you objectives that will ensure that as a politician, you're going to get re-elected. If you tick these boxes, there's a very high chance that you're going to get back into power. But no one was really pursuing it. There were a lot of... I mean, don't get me wrong, the game started within 2 minutes, and everybody was... In fact, the game started before the game started. People were queuing to get in, and the corporations were all outside in a little group, kind of going, so, you're taking aerospace, you say? Well, we'll be more interested in pharmaceuticals in that case. They'd already started. The two media channels we were working, which are Patriot... Well, they were Patriot Broadcasting, which is Fox News, for those who want to draw a parallel, and then the Global News Corporation, who are a bit more like CNN. So obviously we've got a Republican side and the Democrat side represented. Very, very biased, and hated each other from the get-go. In character. There's a lovely picture of the two of them in a cab going home afterwards. But the competition between the two was incredible from the get-go, to the point that Patriot actually hacked the GNC news feed at one point and started putting spurious stuff out for me to like.
Yeah, it got quite nasty at that point.
Yes, yeah, mad. But yeah. So the morning took off a little slowly, and we fixed that for the next game. It's going to happen much faster because we're going to communicate to people you can't do it wrong. The only way you do it wrong is go, I'm going to launch all the nukes, and you kind of go, well, you don't have the button. If you had the button, you could have said that. But you are not the president, he's over there. Or she's over there. Actually, I mean, and one of the things that I've noticed is between Mirror State and Watch the Skies, so the main Watch the Skies games, is we have a hell of a lot of female players.
We have actual women playing our game.
No, it's not, don't say like weird. We've got a lot of them. It's probably 40% of our players are women. And I think it's because we're working to tie into pop culture, and it's not about you can't have Mulder unless you've got Scully. It just doesn't work that way. Castle is the big doofus, and Stana Katic is the I probably said that wrong, but she's the star of the show. She's the reason that it makes sense. Bones is a woman. And so there's a big pop culture kind of swell behind women actually being way smarter than us hapless dudes, and being the kind of the minds that drive stuff forward.
Well, and being as ruthless as Claire Underwood.
Yes, she's the only person alive that could keep Spacey under control.
Yeah. But also this other stuff is what I find really interesting about it is having software running underneath the whole thing. So,
that's a segue.
So again, it's the idea that there's a sort of barrier to entry, like, I haven't, people who hadn't done it before, never played anything like this before, had come along and had a great time. I was just chatting to someone now who's concerned that they'd need to be technically able to play it.
Charts and tables and dice and counters.
None of that at all. That is all hidden away. We do all that hard work for you. So as Sam says, as long as you're playing it right, all this cool stuff will happen. And we do crafty stuff like having a barcode scanner for voting. So we're not counting hands. You literally have a big yes, no on the reverse side of your card, and so
zap it.
It's all completely efficient and recorded correctly.
What that basically means is that we can simulate the entire world in the background, and everything you're doing, there will be one of the game masters kind of just going like, point to Democrats over on one side, or like Ohio is nervous in the background, and it will change the mood of the country behind the scenes. You won't know it's happening, and if you're working in accordance with your character, you're acting in what you think is the right way. You know, we should send a quarantine team to JFK to make sure that anything coming through the borders isn't going to affect us. Turns out that the planned escalation of viral infection was actually coming in through Florida, and you kind of go, JFK thing does nothing in the slightest. But you're acting in accordance with what you think the right move is. If you saw that the antagonist players, the bad guys, were kind of going like, I'm going to push all my markers towards Florida, you would then go, I pull my quarantine marker towards Florida. We make it so that... Actually, I'm going to talk about this bit over here, right? And this bit over here is the election, right? So the presidential election happens midway through the game. Perfect. Having a presidential election midway through the game means you get to mix things up midway through, unsettle the status quo completely. And during the election, we run the election results up on big screens. So as each state gets voted in, it gets announced on the big screen. And what list was happening, we kind of stretched that we'll talk about turns in a minute, but we kind of stretched that turn out. And what we saw was that at all times, people kind of eating their lunch and staring at the screens. One of the people who blogged about the game afterwards says, it was basically a real election. People were there treating it like the real thing. And that's what we're aiming for, is the second you give the mechanics too much visibility, you remove that fourth wall. You get rid of that I'm in the moment layer to it. I mean, even LARP struggles with this. LARP struggles with it unless you're doing, if I actually hit you with the sword, I just hit you with the sword. But then you kind of go, well, how do you do magic? Magic is always complicated. It's always like, I have to throw a beanbag at you, or something along those lines while yelling flipendo. We wanted to make it so that if you live through the moment, it's no more role-playingly involved than it is playing a game of Battlestar Galactica, where you know you're a Cylon from the get-go, and you are resisting from the very core of your being, going, "I'm a Cylon." The bit where you know you are going to just filth them throughout the entire game, and it's going to be beautiful. So we want to make sure that that's the mindset that we get, is that feeling of actually, look, I'm in control of all of this, and I'm going to just lie completely to the president right now. I'm going to horse shit him like you wouldn't believe, so that I can go and get this contract set up with these two people so I can get stuff done. Anyway, that's what that segue was all about. The presidential election was people seeing it as real, and that's how the gameplay takes place, is it allows people to see things as real. And that ties into the digital world, because it means that the digital world behind you is doing all the maths. Now, in our first game, we missed a couple of tricks on that part. The first of which being, if we have all that information about what's going on in the country, shouldn't people know about that? Wouldn't it be nice to know that actually, you've had zombies for a little while now, maybe do something about it? And we'd put it out in a verbal fashion, but when it comes down to, if you're the state representative, you'd be receiving a crap load of information from local law enforcement and so forth. Equally, no country lives in a bubble. Even China, who are arguably, let's say North Korea, who are about as isolated as it's possible for a nation to be, they'd still be receiving the news from elsewhere in the world. So we've worked to kind of surface all that information more. Opinion polling was a thing that existed in the game. At any point you could say, like, how am I going to do in the election? You're going to go, like, you're down a little at the moment, you need to make some moves in order to make sure you get back in. We had that available, but nobody knew about it. So next time around, the big thing that we're adding, for those of you who are familiar with the game already, digital maps. Ooh, digital maps, lovely. Opinion polling served on a regular basis. A moderator-controlled news channel that serves stuff from across the world. So it won't be breaking news that the media players haven't already had access to. What it will be doing is it will be breaking news that you would be aware of, or that a CNN or Fox News would be aware of.
That's good.
That's a handover.
Oh, fantastic. No,
When I pause for breath, it's your turn to jump in.
I hadn't read that expression on your face.
Okay. You can tell we do a podcast.
It's a beautiful thing. So that covers that. Actually, just one of the things I was thinking of while he was saying that, and that's what was happening is, and it was something from Watch the Skies, something we'd learned. People were doing covert operations with agents, but of course they had to put their marker on the map, which is not that covert. So what we have, which is really nice, is someone would say, right, we want to investigate that. We need to know about this. And I go, fine. And that would live here and live between us. We go, right, this is the story as it stands. This is what's happening. We go, right, that was successful. That nuclear sub has been lost. That meteorite was shot down, that kind of thing, where you don't have to worry about that.
We thought that we had the NSA player who, love him to bits, was a bit of a loose cannon. And ended up being arrested by the FBI and interrogated for reasons I won't go into. But no, in the morning he was putting wiretaps on all the other agencies.
And those really work. The
wiretaps are beautiful.
The most beautiful thing where I actually had to say, how are we going to do that? And I simply go and request a briefing from the person who's being tapped. So I go, yeah, come and chat with me. Tell me what you're up to.
Yeah. So as a game master, you go, so NASA, what are you working on at the moment? I just want to make sure that I'm fully aligned.
We would do that anyway, but in this case, it was a tap. So I just had a load of information. I then go and tell the person who's requested the tap, and they could draw on it what they wanted, and that worked so well.
And it's actually one of the toughest things about moderating. Some people call it control. We've referred to it as moderators in the past, but in the future we're going to call it game masters because that's what they really are.
And we love Patrick Moore. That's another just a very obscure reference there. Carry on.
I'm all about Dominic Diamond.
You are.
There's very few people who are old enough to actually get these references. You realise that? You've thrown me, you arse.
Sorry.
And that almost never happens. What was I talking about? Anyone?
I talked about phone taps.
Phone tap?
NSA,
we went beyond that. He got arrested.
Yeah.
You'd just done the NASA gives us all the information. I then immediately hand it over. No, that was the segue. I was going to call them game masters.
I don't think it's entirely.
Some could call them. No. Okay, got it back. Okay, so yeah, the single hardest thing, and it doesn't matter whether you're called control or a moderator or a game master or whatever. The single hardest thing for you to do is actually know what the hell's going on in the game. While you will have full ownership of kind of the main thrust of things, and every briefing that goes out to an agency or a state or whoever will have probably passed through you at one point or passed through the person responsible. Knowing that a discussion just happened over here between the Science and Energy Committee and a couple of corporations about setting up a bloody moon base, it happened. You knew nothing about that, and 20 minutes later, some fella will walk up to you, going to go like, "So we're going to build a moon base," and you kind of go, "Where did that come from?" and this was before you just kind of go, "All right, okay, fine, building a moon base. What the hell?" So periodically catching up with players is vital, and I worked on the big Watch the Skies, the 300 player episode 2, Watch the Skies 2 in London. Watch the Skies 3 will probably have happened by the time people see this video, which is equally large. And the second Watch the Skies with 300 people was mayhem. Absolute mayhem. You had between 20 and 40 controllers in there. I was looking after the United Nations, who ended up being abducted by aliens. That was a thing. We needed time to actually talk to other moderators because there is no way you can assimilate the entire game from your small section of it. And so there'll be all kinds of madness going on all over the place that you just won't be aware of. Effectively, your role boils down to being, overseer of dice rolls. Whereas what we've done is where we're evolving our moderator role to, and why we call them game masters, is from here on in, we're going to have 2 people who are responsible for all storyline. And that doesn't mean they're writing it, it means that they're making sure that the information is percolating out to the right players. Because if those players don't get information that they should have, that's a stopping point right there. If my CDC response team that I sent out to go and investigate an outbreak of cholera, for example, if they don't report back in the right amount of time that they should do normally, that means that me as the CDC player, I'm just kind of going, well, what happened to them? Are they dead? Are they alive? If I have to chase a game master to find out, if I have to chase a moderator to find out, that's a stall point in the story. That's a point that the gameplay has had to be interrupted. But basically, the only reason you should come talk to us at any point should be, I'm going to do this. Is that okay? Or I'm going to do this. Here is the cash that is needed in order to make that happen. At which point we just kind of go, thank you very much. You will find out in the next 15 minutes exactly what the result of that is. So we're moving to kind of entirely digital briefing, where anybody with a smartphone will just get a, we'll get a beep, beep, and they kind of go, oh shit. That's what we're hoping for. We want to keep people in the game, in the mood, all the time.
So in fact, that interaction may not even happen in the first place. So maybe we get that.
No, we want to make sure, because otherwise it doesn't bleed out. So it doesn't matter how many moderators we end up having, how many game masters we end up having. We will have two whose primary responsibility it is to understand what the hell's going on. It's critical. So one of the things that the threat players did in the last game is they introduced this cult, who were basically just anti-capitalist
lunatics.
Yeah, I started out as a couple of dozen people who were just holding picket lines. They ended up smashing up banks and doing a bit of terrorism. And the players, God love them, drew a parallel between, we've got zombies over here, we've got this bunch of people over here, they are clearly connected. They thought, like, no, they have engineered this thing to bring about the end of the world. Fantastic, that's exactly what we want to see. Because we then rolled with that, there wasn't a particular connection, but they kind of go like, that story's way more fun than the one we had. Let's carry on going with that. It's like good D&D. The story, you're there as DM to make sure they have a great time. It's not about you. It's not about your ideas. It's about theirs. It's about making them do all of the good stuff. We were going to do like a 5-minute advert, and we've ended up just rambling for 25 minutes.
I think it was pretty good though.
Yeah. Anyone got questions? We've got a couple of minutes.
Fire a question.
Turn on mic if they don't have any questions.
Well, we can repeat the question for the folks at home. Questions, observations, anything, no matter how entertaining you might think it isn't.
Just for me, I this is hearing you guys speak is the first time I've encountered this. So, have you got like a huge site that like you run? I mean, a physical site you run this all on? And
No, that's our sticking point. Is finding the right location to do it in. So we ran a Watch the Skies in Trumpington, like a mile down the road, in a village hall. It was okay. It was okay. You came onto that as well, didn't you? Yeah, it was okay. It's a nice enough space. It's not what we want. What we're trying to do is make it so that the space is as much a part of the game as the people, so that it feels like I could be walking the halls of power here. And village halls and church centres and things like that, they're good spaces that you can get hold of, but they're not quite right. The amount of Jesus loves you banners at the first mirror state, with that, we came away looking at the video footage because we videoed quite a lot of it. Check it out on YouTube. Search for Mirror State Megagame. We videoed quite a lot of it, and while they're kind of going like, so we're going to deploy our fleet in the South Pacific in the expectation that the Iranians are up to no good. Jesus thinks you're ace, right in the back of the shot, and you kind of go, oh man. Not to mention the fact that I referred to the rule book as the Bible right at the start of the game, and then went, actually that's inappropriate for these surroundings. So. At the moment, we take what we can get. We're building up. So basically, the game is designed to work for between 20 at the minimum to 100 players. We've run with just over 50 was our first game. We're hoping to hit 100 for the next game coming October 3rd. Book now. Throw myself by trying to be hilarious. So we're trying to hit the 100 for the second game. But we can, basically the game is designed to work with almost unlimited players. Our goal is to get to 1,000 because every chunk of 100 is another country. So as soon as we break through the 100 barrier of tickets sold, we'll split the number in two and we'll have, say, 60 as America and another 60 as Russia. All experiencing the same thing, but then you've got ambassadors coming into play. They're getting different information coming out in a slightly different way depending on geography and alliances and so on.
And it's fundamentally designed to be scalable.
It's modular, effectively. Yeah. We can stack as many countries as we like, whichever countries we like. I mean, I've just got to do the freaking months of research in order to make it at least semi-realistic. But we can bolt as many together as possible, and we'd love to run a 1,000-player game. And here's one thing for our big plan, right? Here's one thing we're going to do. When we tip over into the 2-country setup, we'll have a TV studio. So at the moment we have rolling text news, like you'd get on a CNN website, something like that. More than Twitter. A bit better than the scroller you get at the bottom of the BBC or something like that. But we have rolling news, works really, really well. If we get into the 150 kind of plus player area, we'll have a TV studio, and instead we will have real news running throughout the game. Might not be constant to start with, but we'll get people in who are used to presenting on screen to actually present stuff. So the media players will be acting as editors. And then you'll have it just pop up on the screen. And it means that anybody who's actually not there can watch the game happening. They can watch the news as though it was real. But that's where we want to get to. We want to expand into being. I mean, at the moment, we charge people to play. We have to charge people to play because the rooms aren't free. And anything we make over the cost of the hall hire, we're investing in new kit. So we made 15 quid off Watch the Skies. We bought a barcode scanner. We made we made a little bit more than that. We made like 50, 60 quid. Woohoo! Out of Mirror State 1. Yeah. And we're sinking all of that into better presentation. I mean, we're both down in the hundreds so far in what we've sunk into the game. But our goal is that every time we put on a big game, the next game's going to be even better. But everyone who comes along has had a blast so far, and it will continue to be the case.
Yeah.
Anyway, search for Mirror State Megagame in Google, and you will find all kinds of crud on the web about what we've got. If you're in the room, come and get a flyer, or come talk to us in person.
And next game, Mirror State Code Epsilon.
Code Epsilon.
October the 3rd.